Greetings, comrades, and welcome to our CSG Thursday study group. We have actually started chapter four, which is the title of chapter 4 is Consciousism, and this is our second reading and second class on chapter 4. Last week we looked at the beginning of that, which was stressing on practice without thought is blind, and thought without practice is empty. So we will be continuing with that in this our second class on chapter 4. And once again, welcome, comrades. To those who will be watching our recordings, feel most appreciated. Feel free to get in touch with us. Always the link for our study groups, either virtual links and WhatsApp links, are available on our YouTube channel. So anytime you are in our YouTube channel, feel free to do that. Also, feel free to share any of our recordings with your friends. Also, share your comments if you have any, or even any questions. But most important, we invite you to join us every Thursday, 6 p.m. GMT. To members who are with us, greetings to all of you from where you're joining us. Welcome to comrades we have here so far. Comrade Kwame, our chair, Brother Seshaba, welcome. Brother Window, welcome. Sister Ida, welcome. And Brother Coco, feel most welcome. And yes, let's proceed with our reading. Back to you, first of all, Brother Kwame, in case there's anything you'd like to share before we start. Brother Kwame. Brother Kwame, do you have anything you'd like to share as we start the reading for today?
No, nothing to share. Just normal reading, normal sharing of thinking. I shall and will interject if I feel it is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Kwame. Now, as usual, any comrade who is willing to read for us the paragraph highlighted, please, you can raise your hand or unmute your mic and let me know so that you can give the opportunity to read for us the highlighted paragraph. Any comrade? Any comrade, please, who is willing to read for us the highlighted paragraph? Okay, maybe I'll try and read it. And then we will go around. Sister Ida, are you in a position to do that? Greetings.
I was going to say, sorry, I'm just listening because I'm on the bus. Sorry. Thank you.
No, it's okay. So let me just do the reading then.
Pigeon?
And here is the reading.
Pigeon?
Yes, Brother Kwame.
I'm happy to read if
Yes,
nobody
Brother
wants. If nobody
Oh,
wants.
thank you. Thank you. That will help me also.
Yeah, give me a
try
moment.
to share a bit. Okay, Brother Kwame.
Thank you. Let me put on my glasses. Right. Thank you. Once again, welcome everyone. We are delighted to have you all. And yeah, so as usual, I'm going to read very slowly. As is convention. And as you know, we don't really have rules in our class. We have conventions. It's a different thing from rules and conventions. And our convention is that you read very slowly and then everybody follows as one reads, after which we share our thinking. Sometimes we read a passage twice. It depends on what the one sharing thinks. So I'm going to proceed to read. Brother Pigeon, can you just bring the screen just one more line so I can see everything? That's it. Thank you. Here I go. Our attitude to the Western and the Islamic experience must be purposeful. It must also be guided by thought. For Practice without thought is blind. What is called for as a first step is a body of connected thought, which will determine the general nature of our action in unifying the society which we have inherited. This unification to take account at all times of the elevated ideals underlying the traditional African society. Social revolution must therefore have standing firmly behind it an intellectual revolution, a revolution in which our thinking and philosophy are directed towards the redemption of our society. Our philosophy must find its weapons in the environment and living conditions of the African people. It is from these conditions that the intellectual content of our philosophy must be created. The emancipation of the African continent is the emancipation of man. This requires two aims. First, the restitution of the egalitarianism of human society. And second, the logistic mobilization of all our resources towards the attainment of that restitution. End of reading. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the comment. Thank you for that. Welcome to those who have joined us, like Sister Atapo. Feel most welcome. Now, the first part would be to define any term that need definition. So, is there any member who wish to ask any term for definition? Please, let's take that first. Any term? Okay, that means that we are okay with all terms. I don't equally see any term that is new in this process. I remember there's a word coming in, redemption. I think it's coming in for the first time. I'm not sure. From all our previous reading, the word redemption is now coming in. The emancipation is also here. I think we have tackled emancipation before. There's another term, restitution, which we've also come across before. And egalitarianism, which has now been a familiar term within this reading group. There's an element of also unification coming in, the unifying society. So I think those are a few things. And now there's also weapons. So I think the word weapons, whether it can mean literally physical weapons or philosophical weapons, I think that is also coming in for either, not the first time, but I think it's not been commonly used. And then there's the element of intellectual content. So I think those are a few things that have come as well. But I think we have tackled them in the past. Is there anybody who still feel there's any other word they want us to maybe look at? If not, I'll go around and allow members to share their thinking. Any member? Brother Kwame, is there any words you wish to stress on before we start this? Because I'm seeing also the word social revolution. Is there any word you wish to stress on, Brother Kwame? Brother Kwame, if not anyone, then I can just proceed. Is there any word, Brother Kwame, you wish to stress on at this particular starting point? Okay, then let's go around then. Now, as usual, I'll start with my list. The first person in my list is Brother Sershaba. Brother Sershaba, please share your thinking with us on the text.
No, thanks, and I appreciate the reading by the comrade. I think I'll pose a question, but also make my comments. When you read the entire paragraph, it comes outstanding in terms of the Western and Islamic experiences, which within the paragraph itself. But then when I was reading it before even coming to the session, I was trying to interpret it within that underlying the traditional African society. And taking it from the point that there will have been an influence of Western and Islamic within the context of African traditions, if you may call them. But the question that will have come to me will have been locating the entire Africa as it appears, as conceptualized by whoever that will have done it in terms of the mapping of it, and say, what will really be the real African traditional basis that we are putting ourselves on. And now, linking with the previous part that was dealt with last week, then bringing the question of social revolution, it then will have risen in me to say that social revolution, in my own understanding, will mean interpreting what will the previous session would have spoken about when it talks about theory without practice, be implied and vice versa. That if we were to speak about the social revolution in our current, where already the first sentence talk about our attitude to the Western and Islamic experiences, that in themselves have engraved themselves and been humanized in this African context. What then will be? Are we gonna rebuild a new African tradition that at the end of the day will be based on what as we move forward? That's why I said mine will have been a lot of questions that I had when I was reading the text. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Sershaba. Brother Kwame, would you like to come in?
Yes, brother, do you want the question answered or you want to make your contribution first?
I think it might be better the question first answer, because then it will allow me to then.
Okay. So if I understand you correctly, correct me if I haven't got it correctly, you are saying that the Islamic and the Western are already part of African society, so there is no problem. Therefore, why is Nkrumah saying that we must, if you like, imbibe them or inculcate them as experiences? Is that what you're saying?
It's basically what I'm saying, yes.
Oh, okay. So then the question is, If that is the case, why are Christians and Muslims at each other's throat in Nigeria? Why do some Africans emotionally hate North Africa and believe that North Africa should not be part of a united Africa? Why did an African president give up the Libyan president when it was crucial that Africans come around and support other presidents? Do Islamic and can Christians and Muslims marry easily without any problems? Are traditional Africans happy when they hear Christian preachers behind their shrines telling them they are devils and that they are lost and that they should repent and accept Jesus? But that's a shame. I hope you are seeing where I am getting at. That if it is a case that there are no pervasive contradictions in Africa, then if that is the case, like you're saying, then of course. So why do we have to worry? It's all already sorted. And the fact that Nkrumah married Fathia of Egypt, which some Africans think was wrong, even after today, then there is no problem. But if you accept that the few issues I have mentioned, and there are more, some of them at the continental level, like the fact that somehow some countries in Northern Africa had Africans in slave markets not too long ago, or that Black Africans are maltreated in certain North African countries, that some North African countries see people with black skin as inferior to them and call us slaves, or think that we are slaves, etc., etc. So if these problems still persist, then you can see why this paragraph is necessary. Let me pause there for you to respond, and then we can take it further. Thank you.
Professor Shaba?
Thank you. I think you're really moving from where I am, because it's the same line I was moving from, but within the context of the experiences that one has picked up and that are open. We see them on a daily basis, especially between what is happening in the battle between Israel and Gaza. When we engage the people and you pick up that. Now, the question then becomes, if you say that experiences and our attitude towards that must be purposeful, then they become purposeful, yes, because they will guide us. I agree on that perspective with what Nkwame is saying. And I also understand his taking the debate further in terms of taking them not in a purposeful way just for the sake, but to be an element of guiding us through our thoughts in whichever way that we will be looking at. Now, when you take that and you start to talk about what they are, the two, there's a bad blood between the two, irrespective of whether they can live together or what, but there's a bad blood from where I'm moving from. And the Western is worse because the tendencies or the characteristics of the West, for me, are no different from the one of the Islamic, because they are narrow and which you can say liberal in most cases. Much as the Islamic one, they are able to unite on a particular cause, but when you dig deeper into them, there is that element that you still pick up that is almost similar of the West one, where at the end of the day, competition within the aspect of nothing that is within African in terms of that sharing. They may share, they may do what, but that sharing is shared within the context of trying to appease something somewhere around. Now, when you talk about that and you talk about the traditional African society, that traditional African society And when you take the two, there's nothing that can be married between the two. And once you start to talk about a social revolution, then you are talking about us at the end of the day bringing a change. But the change, we bring it within the context of making sure that the tradition that we has to be guiding us today have to consider that. Then what is there that you'll consider? For me, I think it's where maybe I could be clarified. Thank you.
Okay, so Pigeon, if I may come back. So, Brother Sechaba, so if I'm understanding you right, you are saying that there is no contradiction. Oh, no. You are saying there is a fundamental contradiction between the Western and the traditional African. Is that, am I hearing you right?
There is. That's what I'm saying. There is.
Okay. What if I say there isn't? There isn't, not because I say so, but because people like George James, who wrote the book on this very topic, called Stolen Legacy, has shown that Western society actually they have put on our gowns and pretended it is theirs. Yeah. In chapter 2, when we looked at it, if you recall, I don't know if you were here, we looked at African philosophy and documentation, and we discovered that Aristotle lied. Yeah, that he actually stole our books from our libraries, and that all the documents today that are being paraded as written by Aristotle were actually African manuscripts. Worse than that, that which is called Western philosophy, I agree, they've been weaponized against us, because I remember when I was in South Africa many years ago, one or just after apartheid ended, one of the things that was going around that I heard from my students at the time, because I was in Wits University, was that South Africans had been made to believe that Africans had not contributed anything to civilization. I mean, for those of us who were independent in 57, you know, we were aware, we had some awareness of the African contribution to civilization. But in apartheid South Africa, it was hard for the majority Africans to get that kind of information. So it was very enlightening and eye-opening for some Africans at the time to learn that actually they were lied to. So I suppose I am saying that the utter non-alignment that you think is there is actually not there. And also that there are countries on the African continent, like Uganda, for instance, where Muslims and Christians live together in peace. Well, comparative peace, because you don't hear of inter-religious conflict and killings. You know, you don't hear of that. And so they live in peace. And the fact that there are Africans who are Muslims, there are Africans who are Christians, and there are Africans who are traditionalists, and that is what they believe, etc., etc. So I suppose, Shab, I'm saying that there is that utter non-alignment that you are referring to is there for some things, but not 100%. Am I making sense, Brother Sechaba?
No. I think from the angle that you are speaking on, because you are not giving it an overall with no contradictions. I think I'm clear that, because I think from where I was sitting, I was taking it from life experiences, daily life experiences, within the context of understanding where I would have learned up to where I am. And now specifically dealing with a question of social revolution, because when it comes to the point of social revolution and understanding what the traditional aspects are all about, you understand? It's where at the end of the day, then it becomes a question of saying that I hear what you say when you say that some of the things will have been taken from Africa and then taken that side and then turned back as if at the end of and that we have seen, especially with dresses. I mean, if you take the South African context, how the Zulus were wearing what is called tanga and the others today, which in our own thing will have been lepeshu and the others, you understand? You start to see just get modernized and all that. But that modernization, and I understand what Kwame is saying, because he was not dogmatic in terms of his outlook, because he understood that you can't stand in front of change. The only thing that you can work within change is to adapt to it and make sure that you don't become a victim when you contesting is at its stand. But when you now capture the paragraph as it stands, it then makes you want to think seriously, and then you don't just take it lying out loud as it is, because the current global challenges and the current challenges that are facing Africa are specifically of the domination of the two, to the point that because of their modernization and their fast-paced movement above us, with ours being turned back as if at the end of the day is backwardness. And then that's where that contradiction that I'm talking about, because if we have to sit down and start to interpret the paragraph as it stands, it doesn't require to be taken on the surface as it stands, because it might make us to lose what we're trying to fight for. Because when you speak of a social revolution, you speak of another type of a revolution. Thank you. Because lastly, the part of it is that from an intellectual point of view, I'm reminded of one African writer, but a South African in most cases, from a point of defining the intellectual level of Africa, that where do we base it? Do we base it from the norms and the teachings of either the West or even the Islamic, as you may say? Because like us as we are now, the only way out that for us to can be able to can engage amongst ourselves is to relying on the Western aspects in terms of language communication. And is one of the issues that is very seriously to be taken at, because we might take it light, but the conceptualization, the interpretation, and the application of European language, or neither the Islamic language as they've got it, might have an impact in terms of that social revolution. And I think I was moving from that perspective. So I was not just looking it on the lighter note, but I was looking it on the what is at the surface currently that is dominant. And you pick it up is from an educational point of view, because whatever that we learn in most cases, we don't learn it in our own understanding that we can apply it as we see it, as we were brought up within our own African tradition way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Kwame, I will probably allow you to come after the next speaker, so that you will be able maybe to also capture the perspective of the next speaker as well. I think that will be okay, brother.
Yes, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now, my next speaker on the list is Sister Tapua. Sister Tapua?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much to the contributors that have just come before me. Totally agree with some of the things that you're saying. But because I came in late into the meeting, I've just been going sentence by sentence to make sure I understand what the whole paragraph is about. And my usual position is the topic sentence in any paragraph is the introductory sentence, and the last sentence is a summary sentence. So I'm looking at Nkrumah saying that from the first sentence, our consideration in order for us to reinstate egalitarianism in an African context, we need to start from where we are. So his first sentence says, we need to consider the Western and Islamic experience. In other words, although we know that we've had African tradition and everything else, we cannot move forward unless we take account that amongst ourselves, entrenched within us, is now the Western and Islamic experience. But he is saying that we must consider this these two things in ways that will be useful for us to achieve our agenda. In other words, we're not just going to say Western things are bad or Islamic religion is bad, because then we are coming into conflict with ourselves. We need to consider these two and ask ourselves, how best can we use the existence of these elements to achieve our goals? But he's also saying that what must take precedence is African tradition. Because in the second sentence, he is saying, how we consider Western and Islamic society must be thought through. In other words, I know if you go through the internet, you get all sorts of information talking about we need to go back to this, we need to throw away that, we need to do this. What I understand Nkrumah to be saying is, yes, we might have been lied to, but we are where we are today. How do we take everybody with us? And at the same time, restore the respectability of African traditional ways of doing things, whilst acknowledging that we have amongst ourselves these elements that we can't get rid of. For example, the language, like my brother is saying. I think in the third sentence, I'm reading it to mean, he then suggests the things that we need to do. What we need to do to have a social revolution. And step one is, he says, we should have connected thoughts to direct how we unite our society as it is now. And like my brother is saying, it's a tall order. But we need to be the intellectuals that he's talking about here, that we've got people of Islamic persuasion amongst us. We've got Africans of Western persuasion amongst us. But we are Africans. In other words, what's underpinning how or who we are is from where we've started from. We've started from African tradition. And it is that African tradition, if correctly positioned by intellectuals, is going to help in the unification of Africa. Because there's one thing that both those Westerners and Islamic persuaded people cannot run away from, that we are African. Therefore, he is saying in that sentence, we should connect under the banner of traditional African society. The next step, he says, is in order for that to happen, we need to have intellectuals who must help our societies to liberate our society. In other words, we need to have people of deep thought, people who understand what Islam means to Africans, who are hooked by it, what Christianity means to Africans who are hooked by it, but still acknowledge that they're Africans. So he says in the third step, our philosophy must use the current African environment and living conditions to fight and unite our people. Because whether you're Western, you've got Western orientation or Islamic, there is one common thing that we have: our living conditions. So the intellectuals who are going to lead us out of this quagmire are people who can start with our living conditions and use the conditions that we live under to unite people so that we can liberate ourselves. In other words, we're saying religion is fine. It looks prominent right now. Western culture looks prominent right now, but the common thing that the African is experiencing is living conditions. Let our philosophy talk about the living conditions of the people, and we must use these living conditions as our weapon to fight and unite the people. And then lastly, he sums up by saying, the very act of restoring egalitarianism, because if we're looking at the living conditions of our people, we've got to adopt egalitarianism. Restoring egalitarianism in itself is not just liberating Africans, but liberating humanity at large. We need to make sure that we mobilize resources with our intention in mind, so that that blind criticism of Christian this, Muslims that, without using the opportunity to rally people behind what we believe, is blind, is acting blindly, is sometimes even shooting ourselves in the foot. Yes, people will believe what they want to believe, but their living conditions and the situation in which they are in disregards whether you're of Islamic orientation or you're of Western orientation. And that is what we must use as intellectuals to move forward. Thank you. I'll stop here for now.
Thank you, Sister Tapua. Brother Kwame, I would like to request you, Brother Kwame, to give us the practical Nkrumah's life in terms of how did he maneuver in practical situation between the Western and the Islamic influence. I know, and you can remind us, Brother Kwame, that Nkrumah also studied, I think, theology a bit. And he practiced, I don't know which faith. So I think that will help us also to see him rather than his text. Now seeing Nkrumah trying to now put this from himself to what he's trying to put to us. As we even also try to share our thinking to this. So we put ourselves, this is Nkrumah now trying also to describe his life. Brother Kwame, please.
Yeah, but bear in mind that not everyone agrees with Nkrumah. Some think that he was fundamentally wrong. And there was a sister in our midst who has now left us, you recall, attending our classes for a few lessons, and left over this question, believing that you can never unify Islam and Christianity and traditional Africa. That was her position. And for Nkrumah to be saying that, she got very upset and left us. It's not the only one. There are Africans who believe that as well and think that Nkrumah shouldn't have married from the north. So if you're asking for an example of Nkrumah himself setting an example, well, yes, he married a woman from Egypt, which is North Africa. So that was Nkrumah himself.
Brother Kwame, did he study theology?
Yeah, he did. It's theology.
And which faith did he practice?
Nkrumah didn't practice any religion. In fact, from the start, he believed that Africans should be left alone to practice whatever religion they choose. So he wasn't very happy with.
I remember in the first paragraph or the first chapter or second chapter, Brother Kwame, I remember Nkrumah said that the state should be, what did he say?
Should be secular. Yes.
Yeah,
which basically means that. Yeah, which basically means that if you're the president, you don't use a meme of yourself as Jesus Christ. Then you are elevating one religion over the others. Although some may argue that the United States of America is a Christian nation. I don't know. I'm just saying, if that is the case, then that is the case. But there are Muslims in USA, and there are traditionalists as well. So to answer your question, why are you going so far back, brother? So to answer your question, yes.
Brother Kwame, I'm trying to
go on.
I'm trying to trace where Nkrumah brought the first issue of the three strands. Because we read it before when he brought now the three strands 3. And what he was recommending back. Yeah, it's in chapter 3. That's why I'm trying to
chapter 3.
Okay, so go ahead, Brother Kwame.
Yeah, that's fine. So to answer your question very simply, in his own life, he married a Muslim, had children with him, two boys, I believe. 2 boys and 1 girl, Samea, Seku, and I think Gamal, I think. Then in terms of his own politics, he interacted with the King of Morocco, made them to understand that they have to subject themselves to the unification of Africa. Within Ghana, if there was a ceremony, we had Muslim prayers, we had Christian prayers, we had the pouring of libation according to traditional African prayers. So Nkrumah himself, and then in terms of the politics, if you were from northern Ghana, you could be an MP in southern Ghana. You did not necessarily become an MP in the area in which you were born. So if you are a Zulu, for instance, you can be, but you can be made an MP in the Thosa area. You understand? And then a Thosa man will be made an MP in a Zulu constituency. So he did that to unify the country. So those are examples, Pigeon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Kwame. If you, as we go along with the sharing of our thinking, if you'll be able to please get me the specific area when Nkrumah introduced first these 3 strands, I think it will help us also, because it's been a while before once we looked at it. Now we move to capitalism or society. I think it will be very important to look at. So now I have 2 hands up. I'll allow them to go first. The first time that was up was Sister Tapua. I'll allow you to be very brave, and Brother Seshaba, because 2 of you have commented or have shared your thinking, and I think you might want to come back on that. But I'll then move after the 2 of you briefly. I'll move to the next members who haven't shared their thinking. So let me start with Sister Tapua briefly, then Brother Seshaba. Sister Tapua. Sister Tapua. Okay, Brother Seshaba, go ahead.
I think I'll still go back to the paragraph, but taking from what Brother Kwame was saying, a thick, deeper thought application on the paragraph itself with what Kwame was talking about. And it's one critical area that some of us appreciate Kwame and Nyerere and the others on the strides that they will have done in terms of elevating the African context within the socialist agenda itself. But from the understanding of Marxism on the bigger scope, I will always argue that there will have been limitations at their time, which might not have been out of their own, but out of the conditions that they will have been operating. But their strides in terms of reshaping Africa, they still need to be appreciated and advanced, because you don't build a house by starting from the roof. You build a house from the foundation. And I think that's a basis that they have laid for us. And what Sister Tapua was speaking about, to say that there comes then the role of intellectuals in terms of unpacking deeper the genesis of Marxism as it stands as a theory, vis-a-vis from its outlook, world outlook, and that you lock it within idealism and materialism, and whether can you match the 2. And this is where I think I was interpreting the paragraph from. Thank you.
But remember, sorry, can I comment? Okay. Remember, Brother Seshaba, remember that for us, we don't subscribe to hardcore idealism or hardcore materialism. Yeah, so we don't subscribe to that position. And therefore we reject the hardcore Marxist position that everything is matter. So if you just bear that in mind. Pigeon, I have the page for you. Would you like me to share it? Pigeon?
Yes, Brother Kwame, please share it as Sister Tapua share her thinking. then we
Okay,
can look
so,
at that page and
Yes.
connect it,
so
please.
if you stop sharing, then
Okay.
I will share that page for you.
All right.
So, Sister Tapua, go ahead.
Yes, I put my hand up because when we talk about religion, we know, for example, like my brother has said, Shaba has said, that these religions will not agree. They don't want to be put in the same room. So, as intellectuals with this context, finding ourselves in this context, we need to understand what the function of religion is at a personal level and then at a communal level. Once we understand that, it doesn't matter whether a person is a traditionalist or is of Islamic persuasion or Western persuasion. The fact that they ascribe to a religion means that they have certain needs that are met by that. But that is not what we are worrying about. What we want is the conditions, the living conditions of the people to change. And egalitarianism addresses that. Communalism addresses that. So I feel that we should not be drawn into arguing or a situation where we have to defend one or the other. What we're talking about is, do you have food on your table? Do you have your living conditions as you want them to be or as they could be under the circumstances that we have now? Could they be improved? Then everybody will be singing from the same ship because, like in Zimbabwe, we all move on the same road with potholes, whether you're traditionalist or we have education challenges, we have economic challenges, and they don't look at your religion. So this is what I think Kwame was saying, that yes, we are there. We need to acknowledge that people hold these dear. But as intellectuals, we need to find a way of making them, all of these, focus on the basic needs that should be met. I will stop here for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Tapua. Now, I'll just read this paragraph Brother Kwame is sharing, not for the purposes of discussion, but to help us link it to the paragraph we are reading currently, with which Nkrumah is talking about. In this paragraph, Brother Kwame, this is actually the early parts of, or the middle part of chapter 3.
Towards the end, yes.
Yeah, and Nkrumah is saying that in Africa, this kind of emphasis must take objective account. And remember now, in this paragraph, it's telling us it should be purposeful of our present situation and at the return of political independence. At the time then when our countries were probably gaining that independence, saying, from this point of view, there are three broad futures to be distinguished here at that particular moment. And I think still present today. That one, African society has one segment which comprises our traditional way of life. It also has a second segment which is filled by the presence of the Islamic tradition in Africa. Then it has the third and the final segment which represent the infiltration, and he used the word infiltration, of the Christian tradition and culture of Western Europe into Africa, including the language Brother Seshaba is saying, using colonialism and neocolonialism as its primary vehicle. Now, these different segments are animated by competing ideologies. So they don't share same ideologies. Very important also we come up with that. They are competing ideologies. But since society implies a certain dynamic unity, the unity Nkrumah is trying to also stress on in the current paragraph, there need to emerge an ideology which is genuinely catering for the needs of all. And I think that's what Brother Kwame is saying, that we are not in the both fronts of the fight. Our position is not on this side or the left side. Our position for consciousness is that ideology that now will come in to cater for the needs of all. And it will take the place of competing ideologies, and so reflect the dynamic unity of society, and be the guide to society's continual progress. I think this is very important when we now put it to what Nkrumah is now trying to come back to again in our current reading. So unless Brother Kwame would like to speak briefly on that before we take us back to our current reading.
No, it's fine. Yeah, fine.
So let's continue the current reading.
Yeah.
So that I'll allow Brother Coco to go next. Brother Coco, please share your thinking.
I've stopped sharing, so if you want to bring the screen yours back. Thank you.
Yeah, it's back already. Brother Coco, please go ahead. Sister Tapua, is it a legacy hand?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, you'll come if it's any hand, maybe you come later after Brother Coco first. Brother Coco, please go ahead.
Thanks, comrades. I think Sister Tapua and Brother Sichava, as well as our chair, Brother Kwame, have already delved into most of what our reading tonight is about. But of course, everyone has to share their thinking. I'll try to be as brief as possible, but in so doing, I will need to remind you of two other paragraphs which were important. It's not just this, as in the way that Dr. Nkrumah has written this, he has created the foundation in the past. He has justified why we have to learn ideology, why we have to learn philosophy, why we have to understand what happened in Greece. And I remember some of the comrades in other groups, when we were sharing invitations to these classes, they kept asking why we have to talk about Greek philosophy and when they are African philosophies. It's important because we need to understand the current state of Africa, why we are where we are, how that has happened, or who has shaped that, and where were they thinking from. And this is what Bishop Maponga will always say. Where are you thinking from? Where is your thinking shaped from? Are you thinking from the south, from the west, from the east, or from the Ubuntu kingdom? So I'm going to try to read something here. Hopefully it won't take me long, but that will take two other paragraphs which were important. One of them was the usefulness of a revolution. The revolution is there to destroy an old order or to protect an existing one. And then there was a paragraph where he talked about Georg Wilhelm Hegel, the one who said Africans did not have history, which the colonialists or apologists then used to justify the colonial incursions into Africa, or to justify why Africa had to be civilized in the first place. So colonialism did not merely dominate Africa materially, it also sought to dominate it intellectually. One of its most subtle methods lay in its reconstruction of African history. And as presented by European scholars, the one of them I've already mentioned, African history was encumbered with malicious myths. Africa was denied historical agency, portrayed as inept, and said to have entered history only through European contact. Even through the authority of Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, who was invoked to support that a historical hypothesis. And apologists then took up that colonialism readily expanded into a broader ideological defense of imperial domination. In this way, history and anthropology were transformed into instruments of oppression. And such distortions, they were not just harmless, let's not forget that. They shaped the consciousness and therefore action. And this is why Nkrumah argues it in conscientism, that practice without thought is blind. The people who accept a falsified account of their past cannot act with clarity in the present. It becomes necessary, therefore, to construct a body of connected thought capable of guiding the unification and transformation of African society. This intellectual revolution, it must precede and ground any social revolution, and it must recover the elevated egalitarian ideals embedded in a traditional African society, while engaging critically and purposefully with Western and Islamic influences. Revolution in this context is not merely an act of resistance, but, as I said, a dual process. It is at once a struggle against an old order and a contest for a new one. While Nkrumah acknowledges the determining force of material conditions, which were, as we have rightly heard, that Karl Marx, they were strictly materialist, he places equal emphasis on the power of ideology. A revolutionary ideology is not simply a negation of a dying system. It is a positive and creative force, a guiding light for the emerging social order. Without such an ideology, revolution remains incomplete, capable of destruction, but not of reconstruction. Thus, the task before Africa is both intellectual and practical. Its philosophy must arise from the concrete conditions of African life, and its revolution must be guided by a coherent vision aimed at restoring egalitarianism and mobilizing all resources towards that end. In this way, the emancipation of Africa becomes inseparable from the emancipation of humanity as a whole. I rest my case here. Thank you.
Brother Coco, thank you. But are you seeing, Brother Coco, because you've been in this all Pan-African forum, some of them, are you seeing really this work that Nkrumah is proposing, is it really actively being engaged by Pan-Africans? Because I believe we are still in the forces of both sides. Somebody is trying to either demonize this side, either appreciate this side. Then at the end of the day, the fight is in fight between us as a people. Because when you fight against a Nigerian brother who is a Muslim, and there's still a Nigerian brother who is a Christian, and there's a Nigerian sister who is also, or a brother who is a traditionalist, and you realize then, how do we move towards the unification? And I think that's why Nkrumah is trying to say it here, that how do we unify the society? And I'm thinking, as I'm also going through this, maybe, is that this is lacking. And I think this, what is trying to propose here, need to be very actively in line with what we are trying to propose. As we say, we are going to the unification or whatever agenda it has to be. I think there must be this intellectual force that must be actively involved on how to solve this. What do you think about it?
My brother, you've answered your questions already. And it's what Dr. Nkrumah said some years back when he saw that coming from the West and the East. And we have distorted mentality of ourselves because of the inherited, the heritages which we have received from the outsiders. But as Brother Kwame is always saying, those were exported from Africa in the first place, and then they came back in a different format. So you realize that in any forum, any platform, anywhere, everyone wants to be the one whose ideas have to be accepted. And that is where we are failing as Africans. We are failing to find a coherent thought process in which we can take Africa to where it's supposed to go. And that is why Addis, they decided to go for a loose form of integration, which is the OAU. And then they are coming up with stuff such as the free trade area, which they are putting ahead of anything else that they should have put in front. So we need to have an ideology to ground any work that we do. Otherwise, we are just another project of colonization. And in fact, in this case, the most confused one.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Coco. Brother Sashaba, saw your hand up, but permit me to take Sister Ida first. Sister Ida, are you in a position to speak now? I know you are on transit. Just
I
confirm.
don't think I have anything to say at the moment. Thank you. I am still listening, though. Thank you.
So that's a pass for you. Okay. Brother Seshaba, I'll allow you to come back briefly, then I go to Sawindo. If it is urgent or if it was a point raised on what Brother Koko was raising.
I think I'm basing my comment on what Brother Koko will have raised, and then I take the cue from the interpretation of social revolution in the context of why I said I appreciate the basis that Kwame will have set for us. And we have to take it from that intellectual outlook that is advancing of a revolution, because we can't stand outside the ideological outlook. We have to, at the end of the day, decide if we are saying that we are making our own, then it has to come out, and that will be a mixture of the two. And what is it going to bring? Because the fundamental aspect of bringing a revolution is what Brother Koko said about. It's about the order. And what is that order that is there? The whole issue is laid on the basis of have and not haves. And whether you go to Western or Islamic and even African, you find it. And now if we have to say that we need to revise and look at a particular ideological outlook, which one amongst the existing, or do we think there is one that we can come up with? And I think this is where, when I'm listening to the debates, that I think maybe we also need to capture that, especially because of the word social revolution that appears on the chapter. Thank you.
Thank you. Brother Kwame, would you like to come in? Before I go to Brother Window, on any comments raised so far, Brother Kwame?
Yeah, I think Brother Seshaba has drawn our attention to something important. Like he's saying, social revolution. Which then raises a question: what did Nkrumah mean by social revolution in this paragraph? Now we all know that, or we think we understand what in consensusism is meant by revolution, don't we? It's a change in a fundamental principle in how something is organized. So if Islam, Christianity, traditional Africa have three separate generative principles, then the question is, that is for the revolution, can we find a principle on which all three can agree? And the answer is yes. And so for someone like Brother Koko, who has stressed the intellectual revolution, and Sister Tapua as well, and the question then becomes, that is the work for our intellectuals to work out what those principles are. That's my comment for now. Thanks.
Brother Kwame, but initially, Nkrumah says in the paragraph you had shared before that they are having competing ideologies.
Yes. So if they are competing, can you find a principle that can unify them? So that's a question for us, because that principle is what will be the basis of the social revolution, where social revolution here precisely means that all the three segments are working together, because that is a revolution. You see, to see Christians, Muslims, and traditionalists sitting together peacefully, eating from the same plate, no fighting, etc., that is a revolution.
Okay, thank you. I think Brother Shaba, whatever quote Brother Koko has quoted before is a quote that is found in this book. I think is in chapter 2 on philosophy and society, when Nkrumah defines revolution, and he says that revolution has two phases: is the competition against the old order and the contest for the new order. So it is two-sided. You are trying to fight the old order, but you must also compete to create the new order. So that is actually what Nkrumah quotes here previously. Let me go to Brother Windhoek, then Brother Shaba will come back to you. We still have time, and I know almost most of us have shared their thinking. So let me get to Brother Windhoek first. Brother Windhoek, please come in. Brother Windhoek, I know you are not frightened by the words that have been moving up and down here. Please just come in freely, Brother Windhoek. You are muted, Brother Windhoek. Please try again. You are muted, then you muted yourself. Yeah, please try.
Please pass.
Yeah. Okay, but I'll still come back to you before we close it. Just know that, Brother Windhoek. Now, General Nunaki, you have some study on this, especially I don't know if it will be considered the old tradition or our tradition. So I'll allow Brother Nunaki first. Then I'll go to the hand that was Shaban, then Brother Koko. So let me start with Brother Nunaki first. Brother Nunaki, please.
Son of a Lake, give thanks to
Yes,
everyone at
General.
large.
Please go ahead. Give thanks, General.
Yeah, man. So, what you want me to elaborate on here?
No, share your thinking on the text, the paragraph.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, there's not much because members, as usually, have shared quite some interesting points. So what I will share is just to say that, first of all, I'll agree with what the elder Kwame said there, that basically the European society is a monkey see, monkey do kind of thing, from the ancient Egyptian societies, with a little bit of European spice. So people like Karl Marx, eventually we find out that are actually scholars who've been reading books from ancient Egyptians. So me personally, I think it's just blown out of proportion, this issue of, especially the last line where he says, this requires two aims. First, the restitution of egalitarianism of human society, and second, the logistic mobilization of all our resources to turn the attainment of that restitution. So I agree with what the great Kwame is saying here, but however, we need to take extra caution when it comes to the issue of egalitarianism and us in trying to develop Africa, reestablish old customs that fit this new generation. Because in essence, when we talk about egalitarianism, we know almost, we've been, I think chapter 1, chapter 2, this was explained to us. The issue of it is the issue that we know biologically, that the black man and the black woman are not equal. It's just the biological fact. But now the thing is, we need to do this thing of egalitarianism in a sense of marriage society, because that's where gender roles actually matter. You see, where the man is expected to be this in the family and the woman is expected to be this in the black family. We must not do it in a sense of, no, because the black woman and she also a stateswoman, she can own houses and people and what, and then mash that together with the African culture. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Not gonna work like that. So if egalitarianism is seeking to do that, for me personally, I don't see it working. I don't see it working, honestly, because of our biology. You understand? So I think when the elder Kwame was talking about in this last sentence, this restitution of the egalitarianism of human society, I don't think he was saying it in the aspect of what we're seeing happening with feminism. I don't think he was saying it on that aspect. I think he was talking about the aspect of the black family as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take the hands in the orders they were. And Brother Kwame first, would you like to come in on any of what Brother Anunnaki is raising so that I go to Setshaba, Brother Koko's hand, and now Sister Tapua's hand?
The elder has spoken. Yeah, I agree with him. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Brother Setshaba, please come in, then Brother Koko, and then Brother Sister Tapua in that order.
No. Thanks, and appreciate that. I think here I will have to throw in a question than comment now. Taking back from the paragraph that will have been read to us that is not flagged, the question of competing ideologies. I think then it requires that I might know them, but I think I need to be affirmed by posing this question. If Kwame is speaking about competing ideologies, it means there is an element of certain contradictions that he picks up. And I think that can assist us also to interpret this paragraph, because that element of social revolution then comes in there. And maybe I will want to be clarified, if I haven't read the entire book as a whole, that what are these two competing ideologies? Which ideologies are they? And on what are they competing? Because then it will answer even that question of egalitarian, because I believe in an egalitarian society myself. Thank you.
So if I may give an example, the pigeon of the competing. So first of all, there are competing, if you like, beliefs, if you like, yeah. And I'm sure you're already aware of that, Brother Seshaba, that there are competing beliefs. So, for example, Christianity believes that Jesus is the Son of God. Jesus is both man and God. Islam does not accept that. Islam's position is that Jesus was a prophet of God. His mother, Miriam, is in the Quran. The only woman with a chapter to herself in the Quran. But they don't accept that her son is God or the Son of God. Her son is a prophet. Then traditional Africa has no view on that, because for us, ancestors can be reborn. So if you think, for example, that God is the great ancestor, then it's possible for God to be reborn amongst us or as an ancestor. So that is a position. So you can see, Brother Shesaba, that they are competing. Another example, if you ask traditionalists, or if you ask a general question, you say, okay, we need to speak to those in authority to sort out a problem. Who do you go to? Well, if you're a traditional African, you go to the elders, and then you contact the ancestors. Yeah. If you are an Islamic African, you go to the texts. Yeah, you go to the scholars. Those are those you go and ask. If you are a Christian, you go to the church and speak to the pastor or the pope or whoever. Yeah. So you can already see that. So you can see that there is competition there as well. One is saying speak to the elders and the ancestors. The other is saying, well, speak to the text and the scholars. The other is saying, well, speak to the church institutions. Even if you say that the text is what we should go to, well, Islam has its own text. Christianity has its own text. As for Africa, our text is AI, the real African AI, yeah? Where you speak, they speak to you back. We don't need any machines, yeah? You go to the ancestral priest, you speak, the ancestors speak back to you on any topic you like. So, so you can see, Brother Seshaba, that these are competing ideologies. So the question is, if we are going to unify Africa and an issue arises and all of us are going to different authorities, how do we solve it? So that's the question Nkrumah is raising. That, and Brother Sisatapua and I think Brother Coco, if I remember, but they've raised the issue, and which is that well, give it to the intellectuals to sort it out. Yeah, let the intellectuals, that is the Afrocentric intellectuals, not the Eurocentric intellectuals, because already they are biased. Yeah, the Eurocentric intellectuals, they're already on the side of Christianity. So if you go to them, they will just confuse the matter. If you go to the Islamic scholars, the same problem. If you go to the traditionalists, also maybe the same problem. So we need now the new African. And this is why, if you recall, during the decolonization movement, yeah, there was a call for the new African. The new African. In fact, there were magazines that were started, and their title was the new African. I think somebody asked earlier, where are these things now? And maybe it's time for us to resuscitate them again. I'll pause there, Pidget. I hope I've answered brother.
Okay, brother.
Question.
Yeah. Thank you, Brother Kwame. But Brother Kwame or Brother Coco, I'd like to request any of you to look for me again when Nkrumah proposed the harmony of the three. You know, the paragraph you had highlighted was also on the competing, but there's somewhere also Nkrumah spoke in the last part on the harmony of the three strands. And I think he said something that would help. But again, there's also somewhere in the past that Nkrumah says that any harmony between the three must be on the basis of African egalitarianism. That if you are going to harmonize the two strands, it must be guided by egalitarianism, which is African. So I think there's also something that might not be as a missing link between the Western or the two sides is the element of egalitarianism. And when Nkrumah say restitution, and I know Brother General has raised an issue with it, it means we are restoring what we have or what we had before the contact. And if you're going to be guided on how we harmonize the new contact, the influences that we gain through the contact of either West or East, it must be on the basis of our egalitarian principle. I think there's somewhere where Nkrumah raised that issue on harmony.
There are a few paragraphs. I can share this with you if that helps. If you stop your page, let me share this with you if that helps. See if this one helps.
Yeah, as you.
Here you go.
Yeah, try as. Now, yeah. Okay, Nkrumah here now raised for the first time what he called philosophical consciousness. And he says, after describing what was happening above, but Brother Kwame, I will also be interested to the paragraph above that is saying there's abandonment of original humanist principle of Africa. Because I think that's the egalitarianism is raising. Yeah, he says that with true independence regained, which we had issues with that independence, however, that's where he comes in with. A new harmony needs to be forged. A harmony that will allow the combined presence. Now he is trying to propose combined presence of traditional Africa, Islamic Africa, and Euro-Christian Africa. So that this presence is in tune. Now that is where it's in tune with the original humanist principle. And that original humanist principle, which I then call it egalitarianism, is what underlining African society. So when you're trying to harmonize the three, it must be in tune with the original humanist principle. Then Nkrumah says, our society is not the old society, but a new society, which has now been enlarged by all this contact of Islam and Euro-Christian influences. A new emergent ideology is therefore required. An ideology which can solidify in a philosophical statement, but at the same time, an ideology which will not abandon the original humanist principle of Africa, which is egalitarianism. Then Nkrumah now talks about that ideology and expand on the philosophical statement. So I'll read just the second paragraph briefly. And Nkrumah says, Brother Kwame, please push it a bit. He says that such a philosophical statement, remember the philosophical statement, Nkrumah bring it up, just a bit, Brother Kwame, up a bit slowly. Yeah, remember this, is it down or up? Can you go up, the arrow up? I want to combine where the apple in Swahili means there. So when Nkrumah brings the second paragraph on such a philosophical statement, remember it's continuing from the last sentence of the previous paragraph, which says that an emergent ideology is therefore required, an ideology which can solidify in a philosophical statement. So Nkrumah then talks of this philosophical statement in the following paragraph. He says, such a philosophical statement would be born out of the crisis of African conscience. Confronted with the three strands, this is the crisis we are now discussing, of the present African society. And such a philosophical statement, he proposes to name it philosophical consciences. Now, when you're getting to chapter 4, we are reading now, is the consciousness itself. And it says, for it will give the theoretical basis for an ideology whose aim shall be to contain the African experience of Islamic, Euro-Christian presence, as well as the experience of the African traditions set, and by gestation, employ them for the harmonious growth and development of that society. Thank you, Brother Kwame. I'll request you to leave it there first as we take the comments of Brother Coco and Sister Tapua. Briefly, just Brother Kwame, just leave the paragraph there briefly. Brother Coco, please come
in. I think you have already answered some of the questions which Brother Sichaba had asked on social revolution, in which you talked about destroying colonial structures, oppressive economic systems, and false ideology, and at the same time building a just social order that's unified national consciousness and institutions serving the people. So, in a short summary, social revolution in this case, according to Dr. Nkrumah, is a complete transformation of society economically, politically, and culturally. And this should be guided by a conscious philosophy aimed at destroying oppressive structures and building an egalitarian social order rooted in African realities. Okay, so we have already seen that has to be grounded in African intellectualism, and that means emancipation of Africa. There's that emancipation of Africa, but at the same time is universal in this case, because the emancipation of Africa is the same as the emancipation of man, because that's how social colonialism was degrading man himself, was degrading the human themselves, degrading not only to the colonized but also to the colonizer. So when we talk about that social revolution, we have to take into account that colonization has brought in classes. It has brought in the economic structure and changed who owns the resources and who controls them. And the social relations have changed as well as a result of that. And then the institutions which have been introduced, they were just meant to come in and support the colonial enterprise, nothing about the people. So, and the values themselves, we have to move away from just competition and domination to equality and communalism. So it is a lot there that are packed in there, but hopefully it helps Brother Sichaba and Brother Kwame with the question which he sent as a follow-up to what Brother Kwame and Brother Sichaba said. With regards to egalitarianism, we have covered this a lot. And it doesn't mean anything about competition. There's no competition again here. Just to reassure General Anunnaki that this is not about woman versus man here. It's about the fundamental equality and worth for everyone. We are saying everyone should have equal rights, opportunity, and treatment in society, really. And no person should be considered inherently superior to another. And access to resources and opportunity should not depend on birth or class or race or privilege. So, in practical terms, what Dr. Nkuma is saying with egalitarianism here is that we need to return to or reconstruct a society where communal values and shared welfare override class-based exploitation and inequality. Thank you, comrades.
Thank you. I'll take Sister Tapua's comment, then Brother Kwame, I think we can just go back to our current reading. Sister Tapua, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I acknowledge all the contributions that have been made, but I put my hand up because of a remark that our general made in terms of, I think if I quote him correctly, he seemed to imply that considering the other religions and going back to African tradition is problematic. There are difficulties there. I acknowledge there are difficulties, but when he introduced the subject of gender, it brought me to a video which I'm hoping I'm going to be able to put on the platform on WhatsApp after the meeting, where Ramaphosa says that no man will own a woman in South Africa. And he was also talking about the murders and the general abuse that a lot of women suffer, rape and so on in South Africa. And the group that I was in, I was shocked. I was hoping that I'm in a group where people are of an intellectual mind that understands egalitarianism and African tradition. And what I've come to realize is the term African tradition now means a variety of things from different people and different groupings. So there is need for us to have one common understanding of what African tradition means. For me, the position of women in Africa was higher than anywhere else. Women could be religious leaders. In the African context, the altar that the family rallied around for prayer and communion was in the kitchen, where women were supposed to be in, or where women were, and they led those. And we've got a lot of sayings that indicate that you don't own a woman. You don't, because when people were saying, for example, the comments that people were saying was Ramaphosa has been taken over by imperialists, Ramaphosa is that and the other.
Can I
and I was saying,
can I interject here? Sister Tapua, we're not in that WhatsApp group you are referring to. If the way you are commenting, you are trying to imply that, brother, I'm not saying you are saying that, but it may imply that Raspala was saying that men should own women. And he's here, he can clarify for himself. But I don't think you should be bringing in the other WhatsApp group to make it imply that is what we are saying here, because that's not what we are saying. And in any case, we are asking everyone to comment with respect to the paragraph we have read.
Yes.
The danger is that once we start commenting on other people's comment, it will draw, if you like, responses, then that can derail us. Yeah. So yeah. So anyway, thank you.
Can I link this to the passage? Because when we are saying that we need to take into consideration the strands that are in the society that we live, we need to start the liberation and emancipation and the unification of Africa from where we are. And where we are, means that this is why I'm saying we need to solidify what we mean by African tradition, because there is implication out there that we've got different understandings of what African tradition is with regards to the different strands of society, with regards to class, with regards to gender, with regards to roles that society has. So if we're going to play that intellectual lead, we need to make sure that we're going in the same direction. That's what I mean to say. We need to have
Sister,
maybe a common understanding. I will end there for now. Thank
Sister
you.
Tapua.
Yes.
Sister Tapua, thank you for what you are raising. And I think comments have been, Nkrumah has been cited on this when he talks about the fundamental equality which Brother Koko has stressed. And Nkrumah demonstrated this in this book using the meno that he quoted Socrates on the meno. And Nkrumah was very specific that irrespective of physical differences you might have, whether you are a farmer, you are a woman, you are a child, that do not take away the intrinsic, in fact, use the word intrinsic fundamental equality. And that, as Brother Anunnaki was mentioning to it, what basically Nkrumah implies is that there's no less human being. There's no a half being. There's no a quarter being anywhere. There's nobody who do not deserve to be a human being. And you know that comes from the treatment that then we Africans suffer during the process of this so-called Western or Eastern religion getting to us. We were never probably sometimes considered as human enough, you see? And many names were used to us. So Nkrumah is trying to challenge that. And he says that we are all equal fundamentally, you see? So I think that should be the basis of what Nkrumah then proposed. And when you mention egalitarianism here, Nkrumah is trying to lay it on that basis. Now, there were many roles, and African traditions, they're saying, might be varied. Maybe what the guy practice, either matrilineal, patrilineal, what other community practice, there might be no uniform element of this. But what Nkrumah says, irrespective of the role we play in a society, we are all equal beings. And that equality do not being quantified by what you do. Not because you are a king and I'm a citizen, so the king is more equal than a citizen. No, that do not take away that element. Not because you're a king or you are a chief in a community and other women are in the society makes those women or children less equal. They are equal human beings. And if you take that approach in that angle of egalitarianism, then you revolutionize the society. And that's why Nkrumah is proposing, let's pick it. Egalitarianism is not what we are borrowing, it's what we had. You see? And irrespective of the roles we played in the society, whether one was to be in the kitchen, one is in the house, whether one was hunting, one was either taking care of the animal, irrespective of the roles we played in our African tradition, we were still seen as equal beings. And that way it was very offensive for one even to kill a child, for one even to kill anybody. It was not that right. And you remember the process you have to go through the taboo and the cleansing. But in the Western or Eastern, killing of any being is usual. You see what Trump is currently doing, you see? They don't see like that egalitarianism or equality is something basis to us. And that's why Nkrumah is insisting, even if you're going to bring these two together, three together, it must be based on the humanist principle of African society. That is what underlines our society. But Brother Kwame, please come in.
Yeah, so is that your contribution, Pigeon? Was that your contribution?
Is my reaction? I haven't contributed, but I think I've contributed also based on various comments I've been making.
It's okay. So let me just draw attention to something, and then I'll share for you to contribute. Yeah, and then you share, and I also share my thinking. I'm looking at the paragraph closely, and I hear Sister Tapua, but Sister Tapua, I don't think, correct me if you think I'm wrong, Nkrumah is mentioning traditional cultures. That's not what I'm reading in this. Yeah, I'm not reading traditional cultures, because if you go by traditional cultures, the Akan tradition is different from the Gan tradition or the Ewe tradition, because the Akan tradition is matrilineal, and the Ewe tradition is patrilineal. So the cultures are different. Satapoa, I'm trying to link what you said. So I don't think Nkrumah is referring to the cultures, traditional cultures. And when he says traditional African society, I think he's referring to African society as a unit, as one whole. And can we agree on traditional cultures? I don't think so, Satapoa. Because the matrilinealists will never agree with the
Okay, can I come in?
Yeah, of course.
Can I come in?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm looking at the sentence there that says, this unification to take account at all times of the elevated ideals underlying the traditional African society. In other words, we're not looking at whether the society is patrilineal or matrilineal.
Precisely.
We are saying that they're underlying principles. So to bring gender, to bring the roles that people play, is not going to the underlying fundamentals of what unites African traditional society. That's what I meant.
We're all sharing our
Yes.
thinking. If somebody
Yes.
thought that's a thinking they will share on gender, let them share it. It's a free world. Anyway, I hear you. Brother Pigeon, before you present you share your thinking, I want to draw our attention to some of the core human rights principles. Yeah. Number one, there are 11 of them. Number one, relational personhood. That's Ubuntu type logic. I am because you are. Number two, communal responsibility over radical individualism. We believe that the individual exists within obligations to family, lineage, and community. Number three, dignity rooted in belonging, that we are all of equal human worth. And that human worth is tied to recognition within a moral community. Number four, reciprocity and mutual aid. We believe that social life is governed by exchange, care, and support. Number five, respect for elders and accumulated wisdom. That authority is partly rooted in lived experience and in memory. Our elders are custodians of our ethical continuity and not just power. Number six, continuity between the living and the dead. Our ancestors are not gone, they remain part of the moral community. Number seven, for us, harmony, not competition, is our goal. That's our moral goal. The aim is not just justice in a legal sense, but restoration of social balance and cohesion. Number eight, embedded spirituality, right? That is us. Ethical life, social order, spiritual meaning are intertwined. For us, religion is not separate. It's part of who we are. Number nine, contextual morality, or what you might call practical wisdom over rigid rules. Yeah. Moral decisions are situational and negotiated, not purely rule-based. Number 10, stewardship of land and environment. You all remember how they stole our land and said we should bring papers? So that's number 10, stewardship of land and environment. Then number 11, hospitality and openness to the stranger. We know how they took advantage of this. Yeah, but we are who we are. Then finally, moral accountability through community behavior. Yeah, so these are 12 humanist principles that underlie the traditional African society, whether it is matrilineal, as Tapuwa said, or patrilineal. So what we are saying is that these are, so what Nkrumah, if you like, is saying is that these are the humanist principles that must underlie the social revolution. Thank you. Brother Pigeon.
Thank you, Brother Kwame.
You can now share your thinking.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Kwame. Thank you, Brother Kwame. Kindly share those 10 or 11 of them on our WhatsApp group, Brother Kwame, please.
I will,
think it will
remember,
really be helpful.
I will, but remember, Brother Sam shared it differently about 2 weeks ago. You remember when he listed them? Well, yeah, that's fine. I'm happy to do that. Thanks.
Now, thank you, Brother Kwame. My sharing will be a bit difficult because I've engaged a lot on up and on. I think
No, just respond
it's
to
the disadvantage of being a
just,
chair.
just respond to the paragraph. You'll be okay.
Now, when
Respond to the
Nkrumah
paragraph.
says that our attitude should be purposeful, it's very clear that Nkrumah is speaking that attitude we've been having is not purposeful. And for it to be purposeful, he has explained that it must be guided by thought. And I think it's very clear here because it believes, and then he tries to imply that on how we view Western or Islam experience hasn't been, or for a period of time, is not guided by thought. So probably either it's guided by emotions, it's guided by anything else we think, but it's not by thought. And it's very clear that if we don't think
but Pigeon,
on how we make
Pigeon, you are implying that if the thinking is domination, that is not thinking. Yeah, if the thinking is that political leader wants to use tribalism for political power, that is not a form of thinking.
Then what is the connection between emotion and thinking?
Well, no, I'm saying that is also a form of thinking. All thinking have their related emotions. But sometimes they try to imply that we Africans are all just full of emotion, and that's why we don't think. We are just emotional robots, which is not true, as you know.
Now, okay, thank you for that. But I want to put our reaction to the context. One, the fight between two brothers here. One is a Christian, one is a Muslim, and then there's a traditional brother in between. When it comes to fighting the traditional brother, both sides might say this person is actually either backward or all those things you want to talk about. But when it comes to the fight between the Christian brother and the Muslim brother, what will it be all about? So that type of reaction is, I think, what Nkrumah is trying to imagine here. A situation where we are confronted with these three strands together. How will we solve it? And that's why he's saying that attitude or that scenario must be solved in a more purposeful way, and it must be guided by serious thought. I'm not saying it's not guided in most contexts, but that's my thinking on that paragraph. Then he says that what is called for as first step is the body of connected thoughts. And I think this is the task, probably, Brother Kwame, we might have to push as well as Pan-Africans, and especially as a study group. How do we come up with a body of connected thoughts? Because as Brother Cook has recognized, I think in the midst of so many things we are fighting in the groups of our hundreds and thousands of Pan-African groupings, I don't think there's any grouping that has been purely of intellectuals that are seated together to try to bring this connected thought to approach these three strands that is very important in our struggle for the unification or liberation process. So you'll get one group is either bastardizing this part, one is saying bastardizing this part, one is trying to call all evil. Then how will we unify a society that Nkrumah is saying there if that connected thought is not there? Because that connected thought is what Nkrumah is saying then will determine the general nature of our actions in unifying the society. Which means until we try to develop some basis of this connected thought, then our nature of the unification of African society might not be united, might not be connected. And I think that might be the missing link in all these efforts we have been making all along. Then I might only go to the last part, which says those two parts. They say that this requires two aims. First, the restitution of egalitarianism. I think this should be guiding that conversation on connected thoughts. That element of institution of egalitarianism, then the logistic mobilization of all resources towards attaining that restitution? How do we mobilize all resources to get that egalitarian society? Those are my thinking in regards to this paragraph. Back to you, Brother.
So should I also now share my thinking?
Yeah, please go ahead, brother.
Okay, so my thinking is that this paragraph is a continuation of paragraph 1. I mean, of course, it's a continuation of all the last 3 paragraphs. We recognize that. But in terms of immediacy, this paragraph continues the argument in the previous paragraph. What is the argument in the previous paragraph? The argument is very simple. You have to have practice and you have to have thought. And when you practice requires thinking or thought, and thought requires practice. Why? Well, because if you don't think when you are practicing, use an example, a practical example. If you are driving, you're not thinking about where you are going. You don't keep your hands on the steering wheel, and you are looking behind you and not thinking about the road in front of you, you'll crash. So thinking when you are in motion is very, very important. Even if it's a plane that is flying on autopilot, then there is still someone sitting there keeping an eye on the road in the air, making sure that even though it's on autopilot, it's going the direction it should go. And maybe the captain is asleep, having some rest or whatever, have a cup of tea, going to the toilet or whatever. So thought has to go hand in hand with practice. Again, if all you do is think and think and think and think, I want to go to Namibia. I want to go to Namibia. I want to go to Namibia. I want to go and see Brother Welcome. I really want to come and see Brother Welcome. And all I'm just thinking. I don't take any practical action, then I can't get there, can I? Because I need to take action to buy a ticket. I need to take action to go to the airport. I need to take action to drive to the airport. I need to take action to go to the desk. It requires activities, action. So action and thought go together. And this paragraph, this chapter, consensusism, if you start from the very first sentence, it's telling us that, brothers and sisters, your ideology is one of action, is one where you must act, you must do things, yeah? You must take action of all kinds. And at the same time, you must think about where you are going with those actions. Yeah, you can't just not do anything. So consensusism is, in terms of ideology, is an ideology of action. When we get to chapter 5, we shall see what kind of action, because there are 2 main actions: negative action and positive action. We'll come to that when we get there. When Nkrumah is saying that we have to be people of action. Yeah. Now, when you take action, as Statapua reminded us when she shared her thinking, you have to start from somewhere. Yeah. Now, where do we start? Where are we currently in 2026? When Nkrumah wrote this, it was in 1964. Where was Africa in 1964? In fact, go back. Where was Africa in 1947? So the action you will take will depend on the context in which you are. So for Africa, as Marcus Garvey said, the aim was colonial freedom. That was the goal. The aim was colonial freedom. I remember Nkrumah wrote a pamphlet called Towards Colonial Freedom. And so that was the goal. So from 1947 until 1957, the Gold Coast got independence, others followed. And then it wasn't until 1994, I believe, for South Africa, when the last one was free. So by 1994, we had achieved our goal for colonial freedom. Now, what's the next goal? The next goal is economic freedom. Yeah. So in this paragraph, Nkrumah is telling us where we are now. Where are we? Well, we are in a continent where there are Islamists, there are Euro-Christian Africans, some of whom are so white, they are not black anymore, if you see what I mean. And then we have Africans who are so black, they don't appreciate any other color, and so on. That's where we are. And we have Africans practicing different religions. We have Africans who have a way of life, some of which are contradictory. But what is our goal? And that's the question here. Nkrumah is saying that ultimately our goal is the emancipation of the African continent. I mean, that is our goal. And Nkrumah is saying that if that is our goal, then we must recognize that that emancipation of the African continent is also the emancipation of man. Man here meaning men and women. But if we want to be more specific, we will say the black man and the black woman. General may say the Anunnaki. So that is the ultimate goal, that the black man and the black woman are emancipated, because right now we are not emancipated. We are still under domination. We are all neo-colonial citizens. That's what we are. We've just moved from being colonial citizens. Now we are neo-colonial citizens. We are not citizens of a free and united Africa. Now, if that is the case, if that is the goal, then Nkrumah is saying that then we need restitution. Reparation is another word for it. Yeah, we need restitution. Yeah, and he's explained that. Now, if you are going to achieve a goal, you need to mobilize your resources. Hence, the logistic mobilization of all our resources. For what? Towards the attainment of that restitution. And that restitution, when you see it, will be what? The emancipation of the African continent, and hence the emancipation of man. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother Kwame. And with that, we come to the end of our reading for today. So, comrades, see you again next Thursday. And
Announcements first.
I want to make an announcement, but I'd like to thank all of us who have actually found time to contribute, and even those who listen to this conversation, like Brother Windhoek. Thank you very much for even paying attention to listen to this conversation. It's been a study group that's very lively, and thank you, Brother Shaba, for coming in and the points you've been highlighting as well. It really add a lot to our studies, so we look forward to have you more frequently. I know you've been afraid coming in, but thank you for keeping up the pace. Some of us have been here almost for 3 years, and we've never get tired of this. So thank you very much for joining us as well. Few announcements I'll make. Most of the time, there are usual announcements that I actually managed to upload the recordings for last week. Just that I've not been able to find a way on how I can share them with the link. Like if I share the link, it pop-ups the page attached to the link. So that's been a challenge to me due to what I'm explaining. But our recording for last week are available on our YouTube channel. And actually we have, from the introduction of this chapter, of this book, up to where we are, every Thursday conversation has been actually recorded and uploaded on our YouTube channel. So you'll appreciate all that you've gone through all that time. And then also the Saturday sessions have been uploaded, and the Monday sessions as well, the reading club, all of them now are available on our YouTube channel. We request you to kindly find time to even share them with your friends and family, and even anybody else. Like, even make a comment. We are targeting to reach so many people, but please find a way to help us also reach out so many people. This Saturday, Brother Kwame, you remind me again the topic, just for the members also to be reminded of that. And Brother Kwame, I think there's a emergent topic on the EFF leader, which you might see how we'll slot it maybe in future based on what's going on in the implication of the unification and all that. Probably it might be coming a bit later, but I think it's also an urgent thing that's coming in. But you can maybe remind us of this Saturday topic.
Yeah, the Malema thing is something that we need to deal with, even when we have planned things. When some of these big issues come up, I think we need to discuss them. But this Saturday, let me share the screen, Brother Pigeon, if it's okay with you. Yeah, if you stop sharing your page, let me share this. So this is the.
Yeah, please proceed.
Yeah, here it is for the remaining 2 Saturdays. So we got science, technology, and sovereignty, and the space program for this Saturday. Yeah. Sorry, Pigeon, go on. I just shared them for you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's the topic for this Saturday. And I think, as some of us might know, we will be trying to reorganize some few things. We'll communicate that as we move along on how we help coordinate more effectively, how you members can also come in and help us work together, because there's a lot that we're doing. So those communications will be coming up as we move along on how we can help each other grow this. It's been from Kwame. He's not walking away, but the pigeons came in actively. We have people are coming in actively. So I think we need to see how we together now work actively in various roles so that we can help push this forward. And I think that one will be communicating as we move along. Now, having shared the topic for Saturday, the Monday one will continue the reading of the Pan-African Reading Club, which we are looking at Dr. George Aitti's chapter 8. We are almost done with that book. And we are looking at various things on the revolution reversal. That's where we are. And we invite you for the same. We'll share the link for that. As I've communicated in the group, I might not be able, for the time being up to the end of this month, I might not be able to get your direct inbox notification like I used to share with you the meeting is starting or whatever. Due to some challenges we are facing with WhatsApp, it's been a while for that going on, but we'll try to explore other avenues on how we can bypass these challenges we face. So I don't have any other further announcement at this particular moment. Brother Kwame?
Yes, 2 things. One, I've shared our WhatsApp group channel in the chat. I encourage everyone to go in there and please just subscribe to one of them. It's good for us, just so our subscription goes up. And then like something. And as Brother Pigeon said, please share with your WhatsApp groups. Yes, Sister Tapua, I will share brother, welcome. Yes, I will share the principles I mentioned. Yeah, I will share them in the WhatsApp group. And then my second point is to thank Brother Seshaba, because he has exhibited for me the ideal student. Because remember, I've been at this thing for a long time. We started on the ground, then we went online, and you have your brothers and sisters come in. They don't say anything. They just listen and listen and listen. Then they explode. Brother Seshaba is an excellent example. And look at how he engaged today. And he's been listening, just listening. He passes, he just listens. And now look at how much we've learned from him today. So, Brother Shetsaba, thank you so much for your continued dedication in attending, and then now feeling very confident and sharing your thinking. I'm not saying you weren't confident before. Of course you were. But thank you very much for sharing your thinking today. All right. So that's me, Brother Pigeon. I think you can stop the recording now. And thank everybody, and see you all on Saturday.
Yeah, thank you all. So that's the end of our session for today. And yes, let's meet on Saturday. Bye-bye for now.